The highway roared beneath his tires, the engine growling like thunder chasing the dying sun. Marcus rode with a kind of rhythm that only bikers understand, part freedom, part escape. His leather jacket, cracked and faded, carried the scent of rain, smoke, and countless miles of memories he wished he could forget. The evening sun painted the road gold, reflecting off his visor as the wind whipped against his face. But through that blur of speed and noise, something small, something fragile, caught his eye. At first, he thought it was nothing. Just another shadow on the roadside. But as he rode past, his gut twisted. He glanced in his side mirror and saw it again, a small figure sitting by the old rusted bus stop, head buried between his knees. Marcus slowed down. Then he did something he hadn't done in years. He turned around. The bike rumbled to a stop beside the boy. Marcus killed the engine, and suddenly there was silence. No wind, no noise. Just the low hum of the world catching its breath. He stepped off the bike, boots crunching against gravel. The boy didn't even look up. Maybe 10 years old. Dark skin, messy hair, clothes dusty and torn at the knees. He sat with his arms wrapped around his legs, shaking slightly, like the world had just collapsed on him. Marcus crouched down, keeping his voice soft. "Hey, little man. You lost?" The boy flinched, not from fear, but from exhaustion, the kind that comes from crying too long. He wiped his face with the back of his hand but didn't answer. Marcus tried again, voice deeper this time, but still calm. "You okay? You hurt?" For a long moment there was nothing, just the rustle of dry grass and the distant rumble of cars that didn't stop. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, the boy said, "He left me." Marcus frowned. "Who did?" The boy hesitated, looking down at the dirt. His lips trembled as he spoke. "My stepdad. He got mad, said I was trouble. He drove off. Said I wasn't his kid anyway." Marcus froze. The words hit him like a punch to the chest. Wasn't his kid anyway. He'd heard those same words once, years ago. He was 10, standing in a small living room while his mother begged his father not to go. He remembered the door slamming, the echo, the silence that followed. He remembered sitting by the window, waiting for headlights that never came back. Marcus blinked, pushing the memory away. This wasn't about him. Not tonight. He sighed and sat down beside the boy, the leather of his jacket creaking as he rested his arms on his knees. "What's your name, kid?" "Jaden." "Well, Jaden," Marcus said slowly. "You hungry?" The boy looked up for the first time, his eyes red and puffy but still sharp, curious. "A little." Marcus nodded toward his bike. "You trust me enough for a burger and a soda?" Jaden hesitated, glancing at the bike, then back at Marcus. Mom said, "Don't talk to strangers." Marcus smiled faintly. "Good mom. Sounds like she cares about you." The boy nodded weakly. Marcus leaned closer, his tone honest and gentle. "Well, I ain't a stranger now, am I? Name's Marcus, and I ain't gonna hurt you. I just don't like seeing kids cry on the side of the road. Nobody deserves that." Jaden studied his face for a long second. The scars, the tired eyes, the kind that had seen too much. Something about Marcus didn't feel dangerous. He felt safe. "Okay," Jaden said finally. Marcus stood and offered his hand. Rough, gloved, but steady. "Come on, little man. Let's get you something to eat." The boy took his hand. As they walked toward the bike, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. He didn't know it yet, but this small act, this one moment of slowing down, was about to change both their lives forever. Because that night, the road wasn't calling for speed or freedom. It was calling for redemption. Marcus knelt beside the boy, the gravel pressing into his knees. The fading sunlight revealed a faint bruise under the boy's left eye. It wasn't fresh and maybe a day old, but it told a story Marcus didn't need words to understand. "What's your name, kid?" he asked softly. The boy sniffled, voice shaking. "Jaden." Marcus looked up and down the road. No houses, no cars slowing down, not even a porch light in sight. Just the endless hum of the highway and the faint rustle of wind through dry weeds. He sighed and stretched out a gloved hand. "Come on, let's get you somewhere safe." Jaden's eyes darted between Marcus's face and the massive bike beside him. "Mom said never go with strangers," he said, his small voice trembling. Marcus nodded slowly, respect in his tone. "Good advice. Means your mom cares about you." He paused, then smiled faintly. "But I'm not a stranger now, am I?" Name's Marcus. Something in his voice, calm, deep, honest, seemed to melt the boy's fear. After a long pause, Jaden reached out and took Marcus's hand. His tiny fingers were cold, trembling slightly as Marcus helped him onto the bike. They rode in silence, the wind wrapping around them like a quiet promise. Jaden held tightly to Marcus's jacket, and for the first time in a long while, Marcus felt something warm, something protective stirring in his chest. They stopped at a small diner just off the highway, the kind that smelled of coffee and old wood, with neon lights flickering in the window. Inside, a waitress raised an eyebrow at the sight of a big black biker and a scared little boy. But Marcus gave her a steady look that said, "Don't ask, just help. Hot chocolate," he said, resting a heavy hand on the counter, "and a black coffee." They took a booth in the corner. Jaden's hands shook slightly as he wrapped them around the warm mug. He blew on the steam, then took a small sip, the first real warmth of the night. Marcus watched him quietly, his mind running through 1,000 questions. Where the boy lived, what had really happened, whether his mom was okay. But he didn't push. Sometimes silence tells you more than words. Then Jaden spoke, voice soft, eyes staring into his drink. He hit Mom. Marcus's grip tightened around his coffee cup. Jaden's lips trembled as he continued. "I tried to stop him. I yelled at him. He got mad. Said I wasn't his kid anyway. Then he left." The diner's air felt heavy. The hum of the ceiling fan, the clinking of dishes. Everything seemed distant now. Marcus froze. Those same words, "wasn't his kid anyway," echoed in his mind like ghosts from the past. He saw himself again, 10 years old, standing by the door as his stepfather's shadow disappeared into the night, his mother crying, his fists clenched, his heart learning, too early, what abandonment feels like. Marcus swallowed hard, his jaw tight. He didn't want Jaden to carry that same wound forever. He leaned forward, his voice low but steady. "Listen, Jaden, sometimes people leave because they're weak, not because of you. You hear me?" Jaden looked up, eyes filled with tears he was trying to hide. Marcus continued, his tone firm but fatherly. "You stay strong. You take care of your mom. And you remember this, you're worth more than the pain they caused." Jaden sniffled, nodding. He wiped his face with his sleeve, a small, shaky smile forming. For the first time that night, Marcus saw hope flicker in the boy's eyes, fragile but alive, and as they sat there, two souls from different roads sharing one quiet moment of understanding, Marcus realized something deep inside him had shifted too. Maybe he wasn't just helping the boy heal. Maybe Jaden was helping him remember who he used to be. Before anger, before regret, before the road became his only home. Outside, the neon sign buzzed softly, glowing like a beacon in the dark. Two lost hearts finding a little light in a world that had too often forgotten them. It was past sunset when Marcus decided it was time to head back toward town. The highway was nearly empty now, a long ribbon of black asphalt glowing under the fading orange sky. The roar of the bike filled the night, steady, powerful, and alive. Jaden sat behind him, small hands clutching the sides of Marcus's jacket, holding on like the road itself could disappear if he let go. The wind hit their faces, the cold biting through the warmth of the diner they'd just left. But somehow it didn't feel cold, and it felt like freedom. For Marcus, it was more than a ride. It was a memory coming full circle. Every mile they crossed peeled back the year, the streets, the silence, the loneliness of his own boyhood. He could almost see his younger self again, standing barefoot on the porch, waiting for a father who never came home. He remembered the sound of his mother crying in the next room, her whispers drowned out by the creak of an old fan. He remembered running away at 12, the same age Jaden was now, sleeping in bus stops, stealing bread, living off anger and pride. Now, decades later, with the rumble of the bike beneath him and a crying boy behind him, the past didn't feel so far away. It felt like the universe had circled back, giving him a second chance to rewrite the ending of a story that once broke him. Halfway through the ride, Jaden's voice rose over the wind. "Do you think my mom's okay?" Marcus tightened his grip on the handlebars, eyes fixed on the road ahead. "We'll make sure she is," he said, but the crack in his voice betrayed him, because he remembered that same feeling, the ache of not knowing. The hollow silence when you pray someone's waiting for you, but deep down, Fear they're not. The closer they got to town, the heavier the air felt. Streetlights flickered awake one by one, throwing long shadows on the cracked pavement. The roads narrowed, the signs of city life returning. Gas stations, diners, distant sirens. Then, just ahead, a flash of red and blue lights painted the night. Marcus slowed. Police cruisers were parked outside a small apartment block. The hum of radios, voices over static, a few neighbors standing in silence. Jaden's grip loosened. His small voice trembled. That's my building." Marcus pulled to a stop, heart pounding. Jaden jumped off the bike before it even fully halted, sprinting toward the flashing lights. Marcus followed, his boots heavy against the ground. He didn't know what he was walking into, only that the boy deserved to know the truth. "Jaden," a voice cried out. From behind a police car, a woman rushed forward, her hair messy, face streaked with tears. Jaden froze, then ran to her, sobbing as she dropped to her knees and pulled him into her arms. Marcus stopped a few feet away, letting the moment breathe. The mother clung to her son like she was holding her heart back in place. A police officer nodded at Marcus. "You the one who brought the kid?" Marcus nodded quietly. The officer sighed. "Good thing you did. The man's in custody. Neighbors heard yelling, called it in just in time." Marcus looked back at Jaden and his mother, the two holding on to each other like they'd never let go again. For the first time that night, Marcus felt his chest loosen, that familiar ache replaced by something rare. Peace. Jaden turned, eyes red but smiling through tears. "Thank you, Marcus." Marcus gave a slow nod, his voice low and rough. "You're safe now, little man. Stay that way." He turned toward his bike, the engine growling back to life as he glanced once more at the boy and his mother, a silent promise in his eyes. The road stretched ahead, dark and endless. But for Marcus, it wasn't just another ride. It was closure, the kind he never got as a child, now found through a stranger who reminded him of himself. And as the wind carried him away, the neon lights fading in the distance, Marcus smiled beneath his helmet. Maybe sometimes, the road doesn't just take you somewhere new, maybe it brings you back to the pieces of yourself you thought were lost forever. Jaden ran before anyone could stop him. His little shoes slapped against the wet pavement, tears streaking his dusty face. Ahead, sitting on the curb beneath the flickering streetlight, was his mother, bruised, shivering, and crying into her hands. When she lifted her head and saw her son sprinting toward her, she froze for a heartbeat, then screamed his name. "Jaden!" Her voice cracked, half shock, half relief. She stumbled forward, dropping to her knees as he collided into her arms. They clung to each other, crying so hard that even the officer standing nearby turned away, giving them the space they needed. Marcus stood a few steps back, watching the reunion with quiet intensity. The flashing red and blue lights painted his face in bursts of color, a man caught between past and present. His leather jacket, the same one that once symbolized running away from pain, now carried the weight of something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. The officer beside him broke the silence. "You the one who brought the boy back?" Marcus nodded slowly, eyes still on the mother and son. "Just doing what I wish someone had done for me." The officer looked at him for a long moment, then extended a hand. "You probably saved his life." Marcus shook it, his rough glove meeting the officer's grip. "Maybe," he said quietly. "Or maybe he saved mine." Across the street, Jaden's mom looked up. Her face was swollen, her lip cut, but in her eyes gratitude burned brighter than pain. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. Marcus gave a small nod, too choked to answer. Words felt too small for what this moment meant. As the sirens faded and the neighbors began to drift inside, Marcus stayed there, standing by his bike. The cool night wind brushed against his face, carrying the smell of rain and gasoline. He looked at Jaden, the boy smiling faintly through tears, and felt something shift inside him. For the first time in years, his heart didn't feel heavy. Jaden leaned against his mom's shoulder, exhausted but safe. Their silhouettes under the streetlight reminded Marcus of what he'd lost long ago, and what maybe life had just given back. He turned to leave, but something made him pause. In the diner window across the street, the same one they'd sat in earlier, he caught his reflection, a man in black leather. Gray around the edges, tired eyes, but behind them, something new. Peace. The kind of peace that doesn't come from running away, but from finally facing what broke you. He stared for a moment, remembering the boy he used to be, the one waiting by a window that night his father never came home. And he thought about how life had just come full circle, how maybe the road had led him here not by chance but by design. Jaden's voice broke his thoughts. "Marcus!" The boy had turned, waving from across the street, that same small, hopeful smile lighting up his bruised face. Marcus lifted a hand, giving a quiet nod. "Take care of your mom, little man," he called back. "Be the kind of man who stays." Jaden nodded hard, clutching his mother's arm. Marcus climbed onto his bike. The engine roared, breaking the silence one last time. But this time the sound didn't feel lonely. It felt alive. As he rode away, the lights behind him faded and the night swallowed the road ahead. The wind brushed against his face like a silent blessing, and for the first time in years, he wasn't running from something, he was riding toward peace. Because sometimes, fate doesn't give you a second chance to fix your past. Sometimes it gives you someone else's story, so you can finally heal your own. Before Marcus could start the bike, he heard small footsteps behind him. Jaden came running, clutching something tightly in his hands. His sneakers splashed through a shallow puddle, breath coming fast. "Wait!" the boy shouted. Marcus turned, puzzled but smiling faintly. Jaden stopped right in front of him and held out a folded piece of paper. Its edges crumpled, the pencil marks faint from being gripped too hard. "It's my drawing," Jaden said shyly, voice barely above a whisper. "I made it for you." Marcus hesitated for a second, then took it gently like it was something sacred. He unfolded it carefully. On the paper, in the shaky lines of a child's hand, was a simple drawing. A stick figure boy and a man with a big bike, standing side by side beneath a wide yellow sun. Above them, in crooked letters, were the words, "My hero." Marcus stared at it for a long moment. His throat tightened, and for a second the noise of the world disappeared. The sirens, the chatter, the wind. All he could see was that piece of paper, and the boy who'd handed it to him. He smiled softly, eyes glistening. "Keep being brave, kid," he said, his voice trembling in the calm night air. Jaden looked up at him with those wide, innocent eyes. "Will I see you again?" Marcus took a breath, sliding the paper carefully into his jacket pocket as if it belonged there all along. He picked up his helmet and met the boy's gaze. "The road's long," he said after a pause, his voice low and gentle. "But you never know." Jaden nodded, though his eyes shone with tears he tried to hide. Marcus placed a hand on his shoulder, firm, warm, reassuring. "Take care of your mom, all right? She needs you now." "I will," Jaden said quickly. "Promise." Marcus gave one last nod, then pulled his helmet on. The familiar weight felt different now, lighter somehow. The roar of the engine filled the street again, but this time it didn't sound lonely. It sounded alive, like purpose, like renewal. He looked at Jaden one last time, the boy standing there beside his mother, clutching that drawing book tight. Then, with a twist of the throttle, Marcus pulled away. The wind caught his jacket, the headlights cutting a golden path through the dark. Buildings blurred past. The diner, the flickering streetlight, the place where he'd stopped running. Behind him, the world he'd once hated began to feel like home again. And somewhere far down that endless road, Marcus realized something. It wasn't just Jaden he had saved that night. It was the broken, abandoned child still living inside him. The one who once slept on bus stops. The one who never got to say goodbye. For years, Marcus had carried pain like armor. Tough, heavy, and unyielding. But that little boy's drawing had done what nothing else could. It pierced through the steel, reaching a part of him he thought had died long ago. As he rode, he touched the pocket where the paper rested. It was warm from his body, as if it carried a heartbeat of its own. He smiled beneath the helmet. Not the hollow smile of a man pretending to be fine, but the real kind, the kind that comes when your soul finally exhales. Somewhere behind him, a boy had hope again. And somewhere inside him, the man who once lost everything finally found meaning. The road stretched endlessly ahead, but for the first time, Marcus didn't feel lost on it. He was exactly where he needed to be, moving forward, leaving behind not his pain but his past, because sometimes the smallest act of kindness doesn't just change a life, It rewrites two broken stories into one healed one. And as the stars blinked awake above the highway, Marcus knew one truth clearer than ever. You don't have to be perfect to be someone's hero. Sometimes you just have to stop and care. You've just watched another story from Healing Corner, where every heart finds its voice and every pain finds its purpose. If this story touched you, don't just scroll away. Let it stay with you, change you, and remind you that kindness still matters. Subscribe, share, and join our family because at Healing Corner we don't just tell stories, we heal through them.